Hello, fellow foodies, and welcome back. You're listening to Foodie Pharmacology, the science podcast for the food curious. We've got one of my all-time favorite guests back on the show this week. We have Dr. Julia Skinner. She's a food writer whose work includes the award-winning book, Our Fermented Lives, and the Fermentation Oracle. She has a PhD in library and information science, and she balances her time between Atlanta, Georgia, and Cork, Ireland, which I'm very jealous of to be able to be in New York. It's probably super beautiful there right now. But today I'm so excited to talk about her newest book, Essential Food Preserving, which is going to be published by Story Publishing this May of 2026. She's also the founder of the Culinary Curiosity School and also runs Roots, which is a food focused community and consulting organization that offers classes, consulting on creative projects, a weekly newsletter, and more. So, thanks so much for coming on the show, Julia. I love your books, and I'm really excited about this latest one that you've got out.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be back.
Yeah. So, I got to know you through your incredible coursework that you offered on fermentation. I'm such a food fermentation fan, and I've lately gotten more into other forms of food preservation, which is why I'm so excited about this book because one of my new I kind of think of it as my creative art form in the kitchen. It's a way I relax, right? But it's also a way I can help feed my very, very hungry teenagers. So, um, but my youngest son, who just turned 13, is crazy about beef jerky. So we have been pulling out the dehydrator and like trying slabs of beef and lots of fruit things that we pick up in Florida. So tell me about some of the different ways that you cover all the different ways that we can preserve food in this book because you go beyond fermentation and dehydration.
Yeah. I writing this book was interesting because I had to really stretch I had never made beef jerky before, for example, and I was like, okay,
Uh-huh.
we'll have to learn how to do that and make like all these other things. Which was great because I got to expand my own practice, but it covers drying, canning, so hot water bath and pressure canning. Um Fermenting. It covers a little bit of smoking meat. I don't really go super into that, but it mentions it. Yeah, all the kinds of preserving we do. It's comprehensive. It took a long time to write.
Recommend, yeah, 'cause there's a lot of information about how to really stock out your pantry using these different methods. I know that you've also been really passionate about reducing food waste, and maybe we could start there as like a discussion point. How can you use different food preservation strategies to reduce food waste, especially for any of the listeners who might be home gardeners or have a fruit tree? I keep hoping
Yeah.
every year I'll get a bounty of fruit, but then I'm always worried, what do I do with all this fruit? It does
Exactly.
for.
Yeah, so, I mean, gosh, there's so many ways that, preserving food one of its biggest, benefits to us historically was making it so we could extend the harvest and have that food security for the whole year, and so the way the book is organized, I really like it because a lot of other preserving books are organized by topic, and this one, um, covers it's organized by ingredient. So if you're like, "I have a ton of carrots," you just open the carrot pages, and, like, there you go. There's all the things you can do with
Right.
carrots. Um, yeah, but it's nice because each ingredient offers us different ways to think about preserving it, and so carrots, for example, you can take the tops and have a separate, food out of those. You can use them like parsley. You can, put them in stalks or whatever, and reduce waste that way. But yeah, preserving helps with food waste, not only because we're putting up the harvest for later, but we're able to repurpose scraps like carrot peels and things. Those can become jam,
Right.
or can be, dehydrated into little snacks or something.
Oh, that's such a great idea. I loved, yeah, there were some things that I really liked in the book. I mean, there's a lot to like about the book, but one of the things I really appreciated was when you make your fermented pickles, that you can also make like, I think you called it pickle powder, basically from the ferment leftovers after you've eaten the jar of pickles, which don't last very long again in my house. Because it tastes so good. So tell us
Yeah.
about like what that's like. So yeah, how you use that. food source?
Yeah, so what I do, when I'm making vinegars, so that could be like something like fire cider, or if I have, there's the stems from herbs, like if I make, let's say something with thyme and I've got a bunch of thyme stems, I put those in vinegar, let it infuse for a few weeks. Then I have a flavored vinegar that makes a really good gift. Like half the gifts I give people are just like things I made out of food. So like like that. But then you can take that thyme out, dehydrate it, grind it up, and then yeah, you just use it like a seasoning. And so little bit of tartness, and some of the ferment flavors as well as the flavor of the original ingredient.
That's amazing. And when we think about fruit, well, let me think. I don't know. I'm thinking berries, blackberries, strawberries, these kind of things.
Mhm.
You can make jams, of course. Like I grew up making jams at home. I love doing that still. My
Yeah.
husband is a major lover of jams and jelly. If we didn't make them, like, our grocery bill would be very, very high for those items, so we like
Yeah.
they're simple to make, it's not hard. But you also showed in the book ways that you can also make things like fruit leathers. Can you tell us a bit more about, like, what are all the different ways you can and even wine, like homemade wine? Like,
Mhm.
what are some different examples of, like, berry recipes that you've had?
Yeah. Oh gosh, berries are great. And this time of year, I mean, it's perfect to really get into that. You can make so yeah, jam, fruit leather, which is just like basically make a paste, spread it out on a sill pat, stick it in a dehydrator. Congratulations, you have fruit leather. Super easy. And you can sweeten it or not. I never sweeten it, but you can if you have really tart fruit. Yeah, you can make homemade wine. You can make fruit sodas, which just, you just ferment it for a shorter time and carbonate it. You can infuse vinegars. You can make liqueurs, like you can just stick them in, like in some vodka or another neutral spirit, or in like whiskey or whatever. I mean, whatever you want, and make like berry, like a berry
Yeah,
liqueur. You can make shrubs if you don't drink alcohol. Those are really good and super easy.
those are made with
Syrups.
vinegar, right? Shrubs
Yeah.
are vinegar, okay. Mhm.
Yeah, so it's just infused vinegar and then you sweeten it afterwards. And yeah, what else can you make? You can make syrups. Um, yeah, you can like dry them. You can obviously freeze them and just put them in stuff throughout the year. That was one thing, for a food preserving book, it's funny, I do so much food preserving and I had never really thought about talking about freezing in any of my other books because I was like, well, like everybody knows how to use a freezer, but like, no, there's a right way to preserve things in the freezer
Yeah.
and not, otherwise they get freezer burn.
No, that's such a good point. Yeah, so I can imagine this did involve a lot of research and different things. I guess one question I have is, now that everything is so, I don't know, accessible, everything is prepackaged, prepared, like a lot of these traditions have been lost. Why do you feel like it's important to learn these skills today?
Well, I think, I think it's especially timely right now because people are very worried about our food supply chains and food supply costs, because it helps food security in a very real way. This is a way that you take back some of your control over your food security. Um, and that's important. But also, knowing these techniques brings you closer to the food itself and to understanding how it's prepared. And it's also a really good way to connect with the people who grow the food and with the plants and with the whole system that is our food system. And it feels like a great sign of respect, I think, to the hands that grow my food and harvest my food for me to try to use it to its fullest potential.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. It's nice, especially yeah, when you're working with locally grown foods and have that chance to connect things together. Uh, and I know you've written a lot about fermentation as an agent of community building. And there's
Mhm.
many ways to ferment things, not just alcoholic products, but also lots of different fermented products. A lot of our they probably don't realize that they're fermented, but maybe tell us a bit about that. Like, how do you see? community building through fermentation?
Yeah, so with fermentation and with some other food preserving practices too, I mean, a lot of times you're coming together with people to make this food, kind of this many hands make light work sort of thing. We have examples around the world of people coming together and making big, big batches of food together. And so we're building community by actually spending that time, doing a meaningful activity together. But then we're feeding our community later, literally, because we have the food itself. And so we're investing in the community a few different ways. I also really like doing this, especially with fermentation, because it's so affordable. It doesn't require special equipment. I mean, it can, but traditional fermenting, like if I'm making sauerkraut, I can just, take this jar that, I'm drinking water out of right now, but I can just fill it with cabbage and some salt and like, there you go. Um, and I love that because that makes it so more of the community is able to access that skill. And I can teach it to people without them having to go out and buy a bunch of stuff or, do a bunch of, a bunch of extra work. It's very approachable.
That's amazing. Yeah, I love the example of sauerkraut. Like when I teach my food class, we try and do a demo in class, and it's just so ridiculously simple. You just dice it up, the cabbage and rubbing in some salt, and voila, you have sauerkraut after a few days. It's really magical, and I
Mhm.
think help students understand how accessible it is. And I do see what you mean about community building. I mean, you know, one of the things that my in-laws do, they're from Italy, and so they grow tomatoes, and then the whole family, like, mom and daughters and, grandkids, and everybody comes together and they make tomato sauce. And
Nice.
they're cooking these big pots of tomatoes, and there's different people have different jobs at different stations. This person's kind of getting the bottles clean, is wiping them and then pouring in the sauce, and you add the basil, and then the next person's like wiping that and sealing it up and doing the water bath. All these different, it's kind of an assembly line, and it's a big thing all day, and then we kind of have a little bit of, like, food enjoyment during the day as well. You bring out the cured sausages they made in the fall, or you bring out, all these different things and cheeses and local bread, um, and it just brings so much joy to the process of, yeah, of sharing in this, and then everybody divides up,
Yeah.
whoever needs this for us for the year, you've got it, it's made, it's
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, I we have community, like, canning spaces in some communities,
Oh,
like,
good.
um, sometimes, like, churches will have, like, a big, space where people come together and you can, like, rent out the church kitchen for the day or something,
Oh, awesome.
or
Yeah.
some government buildings do, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, because my kitchen is not big enough to have, like, an assembly line of peo like, it's pretty much just big enough for me.
Outside. It's, like, all outside with, like, propane tanks and, like, it's just, yeah, it's this whole, and I've also, like, I would say it's more participant observation. So but, like, also I've been there when they've done, preparing the after a pig is, harvested and then butchered and ground up and made into sausage and mixed with all the chili peppers, and then have the casings filled and all these sausages made and hung, and then that is also distributed across the family once they're ready. It's such a beautiful way of sharing in this, like, rich tradition, and it's kind of sad to me that we're starting to lose those things. And yeah,
Yeah.
one of my last memories of my dad before he passed is he had the grandkids, we all came and helped him harvest the sugarcane in Florida. And we squeeze out the juice, and he had this big, like, outdoor, I don't know, it's like a cauldron is the best way to explain it, like, where we're boiling and bubbling all this sugarcane juice to make it thick into molasses, and then taking off the top of the foam, and then we can that. So I still have some jars of the last batch of molasses I made with my dad, and I've talked to people, like, have made, like, kimchi with their moms or have some core canning experience. It's just you're holding on to that last jar, you know?
Yeah.
It's such an incredible moment to remember something you did together. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I have, a jar actually of hot sauce. My best friend passed away in 2020, and we made this hot sauce together, and I still have it, and it's fermented, so it's, like, in a very real way, it's like, yeah, this friend is still alive
It was
because
not, yeah.
yeah,
These
because
are-
it's a living food that they,
Yeah.
put their touch on.
Yeah. That's incredible. Well, as you were working through this, um, what are for the novice to food preservation, you know, what would you advise to folks that are maybe they're not a novice to all forms of preservation, but maybe they've never canned something together. And I remember being kind of, scared in middle school. They're telling all the botulism warnings, like, don't open this. So I'm like, oh, well, I'm not worried about botulism. But like, of course, if you do it properly when you're canning,
Right.
there's really low risk of that happening. Um, but when someone's kind of getting into this for the first time, are there certain forms of food preservation you think are better entryways into the craft?
Yeah, I mean, I think starting with easy stuff and then building your confidence. Like, I pressure can now, but I was terrified of it for years, and I'm like still scared of my pressure canner. I just know how to use it now. But it's like it's a pretty heavy duty tool. So I would not start there. What I would start with would be hot water bath canning, like just like simple, like quick pickles, like vinegar based pickles, something really easy, something that there's vinegar and salt in there, so like as long yeah, like, it's not gonna grow botulism because it's full of
Yeah.
vinegar and salt. That's a really good place to start with canning. With other preserving, I mean, you can literally just take, like, handfuls of fresh herbs and, like, tie them up in bundles and hang them up to dry. You don't even need to use a dehydrator unless you want to.
That's how
And
I
so
do all of my
that's
herbs in my garden. It's so easy.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's
love it.
so easy, and like, your house looks like this really cool witch's cottage. You've got all these things
I
hanging
love that.
everywhere.
I should like all year round. So
Yeah. I do, yeah, I always have them hanging up, like, in some areas of the house just to, yeah, add to the aesthetic.
yeah.
And fermenting too, making something really simple, like, you can just make a brine with, like, a tablespoon of salt mixed in a quart of water and whisked up, room temperature water. Pour that over, some carrot sticks, just raw carrots, let it ferment for a few days, there you go. Like, that's a really good entry point.
Oh my gosh. I love it. I love when you can use like what would otherwise be discarded. And I'm blanking on the name of this beverage. It's a Mexican beverage where you basically take the skin of the pineapple and
Oh, yeah.
like it's like around the name of it, but you just add water, a little bit of sugar, and these pineapple, and the core of the pineapple, and just let it
Mhm.
go. It's so good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, tepache, yeah.
that's I rather and it also tastes very nice with a little bit of
It does.
mezcal to, like,
Mhm,
round
mhm.
it out.
It
It's
does, yeah.
so delicious, and kind of tart. But yeah, it's great to see how, you can use all parts of the food, and you're writing
Mhm.
capture that. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, tepache is such a good example of, like, a food waste product that became, like, its own like, took on a life of its own, and, like, I've talked to different people from different places who are like, "Oh, like, we don't put any spices in," or like, "Oh, we put in all spice," or like different people do so many different things with it too. I really like putting in a little bit of cinnamon, like a cinnamon stick
Yeah,
in my
I love
bourbon.
that.
Yeah,
I like to add the cinnamon as well.
yeah.
It's so cool, and you kind of have this I have, like, a large, it's one of the larger just mason jars. I don't know, it's like the big one that I
Yeah.
use for bigger things, I ferment bigger things,
Mhm.
but I love to get the questions when people come in the house, like, "What's that that's bubbling over there?" Whereas, "Oh, it's very good." Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a whole shelf that's, like, the size of this cabinet behind me that's, like, just jars of things, and, yeah, people come over and, like I have friends who will, like, come over and, like, the first place they go is to go look at the shelf and see, like, what's up there right now.
The curio cabinet.
Yeah.
Yes, I love it, I love it. That's so great. Well, in addition to your latest book, which I definitely encourage folks like grab one. Pre-orders are now open. It is fantastic. So many great recipes. I am definitely planning on trying many of them. I think I'm gonna try I've never made fruit leather before. I think that's what I'm gonna try. Like, I'm gonna start there. That looks really, really nice.
Yeah.
I have a feeling it won't last long in the house because the kids are always snacking. It is a great
Yeah. Yeah.
it's not like a corn syrup laden fruit roll up that's not really fruit, it's actual fruit.
Yeah.
That's great to have healthy
Yeah.
snacks available.
Yeah.
Um, but you also teach through the Culinary Curiosity School, and I saw we actually have a, a a special offer. Is that right for our
Yeah.
listeners on that? Yeah. Tell us
Yeah.
about your culinary school. Yeah.
Yeah. So I founded my culinary school about a year and a half ago. I noticed that there were not a lot of online culinary education spaces that went beyond just like skill building, which is great. Like, obviously, you're taking a class because you want to learn a skill. But I think with food, and specifically these traditional kinds of foods, you're connecting in with the tradition and the history, and like you have the opportunity to really go deeper. And so in my classes, like I have a class I just opened up recently. Um, about community resilience and food preserving and the different ways we can think about how can I build this as a practice that, fits into my life and then support, my community in whatever ways I want to. Things like that. I have another class about connecting, like finding ways to reconnect to the joy of cooking because a lot of people I talk to are like, wow, I really want to do this, but I'm like so burned out from cooking. I don't even remember like what it feels like to have fun doing that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So that class I'm especially proud of because I'm like, that's the kind of thing I want to see in culinary education more, but like I wasn't seeing it. So like it's fine, I'll just do it.
They're amazing. Yeah. It's such a great creative outlet. I mean, you kind of need to have creative craft in your life just to fill your cup back up. At least for me. Like
Yeah.
otherwise I just get drained with all the other things that pull on you in your job and, obligations you have with family and like it's nice just to have
Mhm.
something you can have fun with in the kitchen. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like yeah, that's more about just kind of playing and isn't about, trying to perform or, impress anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it. Well, I can say not all of my food impresses anybody.
Yeah, I not everything I make is a winner either, but yeah.
I come up with my own recipes. It could be hit or miss. It could be the most delicious thing you've ever tasted, or it could be a little bit interesting. My husband calls it a la Cassandrese. Because like, in Italy you have different city, like, names according to different cities and stuff. So it's like this is Cassandra's version.
I love it.
I love that. So folks can go, you can put in code name Quave, just my last name, Quave on the site to get 30% off if you'd like to try out Arna's, Julia's really fun courses on the site. Thank you for offering that to folks.
Of course.
Um, yeah, I guess, and as we kind of think about other things that you've got happening, or if there's anything else you want to share with us about the book, like,
Yeah.
any other big takeaways?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the big takeaways from the book that I think makes it different from other food preserving books is this focus on building food preserving out as a practice. Like you want this to be something that fits in your life. Like you don't want to be like, yeah, I'm gonna like can everything and then burn out and then be like, oh no, I failed at food preserving. Like you didn't fail. So instead, it's like, okay, well, what can I do with the amount of time I have, the resources I have? Like, what does that look like consistently for me? Um, so in my other non-culinary life, I do coaching for creative professionals and for academics. And one of the big things that we focus on is that kind of let's build a practice, like let's make your creative work into a practice that's centered in your life. And that is something that I've then brought into my culinary work too, because again, I see and work with so many people who feel like they've somehow messed up or something because they're not, preserving as much food as they want. It's like just start with what you have and do what you can. Like that's all you have to
Yeah.
do.
I love that. I think starting simple, like you said, all it takes is if you've got, if you want to dry some herbs, you make some twine, wrap them up, and hang 'em somewhere in the house. It's like it's super
Yeah.
easy. It's a good way to get started, and I love even I'll take I like to preserve herbs to make tea with as well. I love to
Mhm.
preserve, like, in the summer in Atlanta, as we know, like, gardens can just really grow,
Yeah.
so popping back at my mint and my lemon balm, and I grow, like, holy basil, and I just chop away, and it comes
Mhm.
back, and, like, and so I have a lot of this I can use not only for cooking, but also for tea making, and I take a lot of joy out of that, of, like, sharing teas that I grow or make, or, even if I
Mhm.
can't grow them, I'll just buy them and, like, mix them
Yeah.
together. Yeah, the different ingredients, things. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's such a, like, that brings up such a good point too, because these are, like, really easy ways to make gifts that kind of pull us out of, like, going and buying stuff, that's like buying people more junk they don't need, right? Like, when I talked about making infused vinegars, like, people love getting infused vinegars, teas, jams, and I'm just like, "This is just, like, literally scraps I had from making dinner, and I put it in vinegar, and now I have, like," and then I put it in a nice bottle with a label, and now it's like a gift that, you would pay, like, I don't know, $20 for in the store.
Yeah. No, I think that's such a good point. Like, a lot of these things that you can just beautifully presented in a store shelf, but you can so easily make those at home. Like, I one of the things I've tried to get I've done the I've made, like, I tried to, like, really do skincare for a while, so I was making my own chapsticks, which was
Mhm.
cool. Then I moved on, so I was doing different things. So I made limoncello one year. I think I made it a little bit too strong. I didn't dilute it enough extra. Everybody liked it. It was very high proof alcohol. I realized my math was a little bit off in the calculations, like, very high proof, but I have actually in my cupboard right now, I have a huge jar just of grain alcohol and the yellow, skin of, a bunch of lemons that I just peeled, and I
Yeah.
use it for other things for cooking. I think I was having a party where we were making lemonade, so I was just like, "Oh, I'll just keep all these, skins and make limoncello." And so,
Exactly.
it's literally so easy because it's just taking the skins off and stick them into a jar and pour the alcohol over it. But the same thing, like you're saying, with infused herbs, you're just sticking them into a jar, or a nice little glass bottle, which are also fun to pick up at, like, thrift shops. I always love, like,
Mhm.
jars and bottles at thrift shops because they make such
Yeah.
great little gifts. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, no, it's so nice, and yeah, and yeah, people love, like, limoncello in particular is a real good crowd pleaser.
Yeah.
I actually my book that's coming out, not this year, but next year, is a book all about lemons, and so I made a bunch of limoncello while I was recipe testing for that, and so I was very popular this holiday season.
Yes. Bring it.
Yeah.
That's great. I love that. One of my friends turned me on to another liqueur. Like, I didn't realize how easy it was to make liqueurs. And I like
Mhm.
that Gillian, but um, I snagged some fig leaves from one of my neighbor's trees. Just a few, not too many, and and made this really nice, like, fig leaf liqueur, which you basically just boil it in a simple syrup, and then let it sit overnight, and you squeeze the leaves and take them out, and then I just cut that half 50-50 with gin.
Yeah,
Voila, I have this fig
great.
leaf liqueur. But you could also do it with, grain alcohol or vodka. I like gin though, so it's
Yeah,
kind of a nice
yeah.
little play on the flavor. Um, but yeah. Have you with your classes, are there certain types of preserved foods you find students really gravitate to, or just, like, are kind of brand new to them, they've never tried before?
It's interesting, a lot of the classes, so I do, like, corporate workshops and things in addition to, like, teaching online, and a lot of what I get booked to do for those is, like, that infused vinegar. Like, it's really simple stuff, and that's the thing that, like, people keep wanting me to come in and do, which is great because I think people it's not that they're, like, necessarily afraid, they just don't know that it's that easy, and then, like, they just need somebody to be like, "Hey, no, like, really just put stuff in a jar." Like, I mean,
Right.
and with some preserving, obviously, with canning, there's more to it, but,
Yeah.
for an infused vinegar, it's, like, a very easy, really simple and fun class to teach and a fun method to just do in general.
That's amazing. Well, I like about too the skill level is scalable because in your book you
Yeah.
also include like instructions on how to make your own vinegar, which is like a
Mhm.
more process. Do you want to just give us the highlights of what that's like?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So vinegar starts its life as alcohol. It's so like if you've ever left wine out on the counter too long and it's turned into vinegar, like you made vinegar. Congratulations. Like, um, and so it starts out as alcohol, and then the alcohol is exposed to air, and the bacteria that convert the alcohol into vinegar are aerobic, so they need oxygen. And yeah, they do their thing. And then you have vinegar. The whole process can take, depending what you're making, can take like 1 to 2 months. You can age it in different ways and stuff. But yeah, any alcohol that's, I think it's below. It's like between like 5% and 15% or so. I don't remember the exact percentages, but like about like wine and beer fall in that range, right? And like those will just turn into vinegar of their own accord.
Oh, amazing. So that's like when we think about like, rice wine vinegar, red wine vinegar,
Mhm.
that's literally the wine
Yep.
changing or apple cider. It's actually apple cider that's
Apple
been
cider. Yeah.
do like vinegar. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, one other thing I wanted to ask you to tell
Mhm.
us a bit more about too for the book was this concept of the root cellar. And like,
Yeah.
a lot of people don't have a cellar, depending on where you live, but like
Yeah.
what preserving like kind of pre-refrigeration, what's the role of the root cellar?
Yeah, so a root cellar is basically like a cool place where the temperature is usually pretty steady. And yeah, it's kind of just a cool room, usually, under the house, hence the cellar, but like sometimes like dug into a hill or something. Like there's a lot of different ways it can look. I mean, you can mimic it in your house if you have like I have a crawl space, under my house with a dirt floor that, like, I could use as a root cellar, if I wanted to. Yeah, like, some people try root cellaring in garages, which I wouldn't do because the temperature goes all over the place in a garage.
Yeah.
Um, but pre-refrigeration, a lot of people, yeah, would have this kind of cool space away from sunlight, like, that just made things last a little longer, and what you would store in there would be some of your preserved food, but also more shelf stable, like things like potatoes and, like, winter squash and, like, stuff that can kinda, be out for a while before it goes bad.
Nice. Nice. Yeah. Well, can't really do it in Florida because if you dig a foot in the ground, you'd have water.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, places you can definitely do it. It's
Yes,
really
other
like
places.
yeah, other places that have a bit more, a little bit further away from sea level. That's um wow. Well, there's just so much we could talk about. But I want to leave a bit of mystery for the future readers in the book and just say, like your others, like it's just so you make it so easy to understand and so approachable and it's great photos throughout and great, step-by-step instructions. And if you want to go deeper to any of the listeners, you can always check out one of her classes as well, which I really enjoyed. So yeah, thanks so much, Julia, for coming on the show, and really good
You.
luck for the new release. And remember, folks, get your pre-order. Check out the Culinary School too. And again, you can use Quave, which is my last name, QAVE, as the discount code to check that out. And yeah, I hope you'll make some new things and share with us like, some things that you're making. And for any of
Yeah.
the listeners that subscribe to my newsletter to Nature's Pharmacy, you can comment on the episode there. I post information, all the show notes on Nature's Pharmacy every week that the show comes out. So, I'd love to learn more about what you all are making at home. Awesome.
Awesome.
Well, thanks so much, Julia.
Thank you so much. This was a lot of fun.
Awesome. All right. You've been listening to Foodie Pharmacology, the science podcast for the food curious, recorded for you today on Restream. I want to thank our producers, to Rob Cohen and Christine Roth, for putting on an excellent show for us every week. They are the wizards behind the screen, making sure everything gets done. correctly on all of the websites. So thank you for that. And thanks to you, our listeners, we are again in season 8 of the show. We are now in the top 1.5% of all podcasts listened to in over 100 countries. It's kind of crazy, kind of awesome. Keep sharing it with your friends. We really appreciate your listening to the show, and we've got some more exciting episodes coming for you this season. So be sure to stay tuned. Thanks so much for listening. Stay healthy out there, and we'll see you next time.